Hi, hello, and welcome to my channel for The Huntswoman, where I talk about business, plus size fashion, and various other topics that I think will be helpful for the world. So today what I wanted to talk about specifically was working remotely. Today what we're specifically going to be talking about is working remotely in a salaried or like steady position. I'm not going to go into detail specifically on working remotely as a freelancer. If you are interested in a side hustle or making extra money as a freelancer, I do have my 2-week social media freelance boot camp that starts next Monday on October 15th, and the details and the links are in the description. Okay, so now remote work has become really popular, and I'd say like the last 5 years. When I first became interested in remote work, it was around 2010, and this whole like digital nomad, I hate that term, but whatever, this whole digital nomad movement had it started, where people were like working remotely from their computers. I knew it was possible, but there just like was not any resources out there, and now it's totally changed. So there are different analytics and statistics around like what percentage of the workforce actually works remotely. And for office related jobs, for like jobs where you're like in an office, you're not doing retail, you're not doing like service jobs, around 1/4 of people work remotely at some point in the week, whether it's the whole week or like 1 day a week or 6 hours or whatever. 1/4 of the workforce is working remotely. So another great part about working remotely is that you can save a lot of money on like commute costs, and then also cost of living for living in like an urban city. So if your company is headquartered in like New York, Los Angeles, etc., the cost of living is actually pretty high for those cities. So companies will actually find people to work remotely who don't live in those cities, with the understanding that they can pay them less than the going rate in Los Angeles or New York. But if you're that person living in Podunk, America, or just, not in a huge urban city, you can actually make more than what the going rate for that role would be in your town, because you are working for a company located somewhere more urban. Honestly, the best part of remote work for me is being able to travel and work wherever I am. Sometimes time zones can get a little messy, and you'll have to be staying up late after a day of sightseeing to do your actual job. But being able to work remotely means that I can go take care of grandparents or go travel for a fashion event, and it just adds a lot more flexibility to my life that I wouldn't have if I had to be in office with my butt in the chair for a 9 to 5. It used to not be popular. Having a remote job was really reserved for people who had really hard to find skills, mostly people in tech and developers, and that has steadily changed. When you are trying to find a remote position, it can seem a little weird, especially if you've never worked remotely before. And if you've never worked remotely before, it's going to give an employer pause, because there is a pretty steep learning curve on being able to work remotely. So let's talk about pros and cons of working remotely for this next bit. So when it comes to working remotely, the first thing that you need to know is that you need to have a space dedicated to working remotely. What the heck does that mean? So you don't need a home office. I'm not telling you to you have to get a new apartment and have a spare bedroom that you turn into a home office, although that's really helpful. But what can happen when you work remotely is you're already home doing stuff like doing laundry or making food, all that fun stuff. And those activities can really creep into your time spent on the job at your 9 to 5 as a remote person. So you're going to want to have a space in your home that you sit at that is explicitly only for working, whether that's a desk, whether that's a section of your counter or your kitchen, but no other work happens there except your, I'm getting paid to be here time. Another thing as far as setting boundaries, if you have family members, right, if you have kids or if you have a spouse, because you're working from home, they may think that you're able to do a lot more in terms of cleaning, cooking, all that stuff, because you are home. So you are going to need to have a tough conversation around boundaries and who gets what task and chore, because just because you're home, you might find yourself doing more errands and just take on a more managing the home role, which is fine. But if you're working a 9 to 5 remotely, it can get messy. that you can do to really help yourself set those boundaries, and a really good way to like enter the world of working remotely is actually through what's called a co-working space. A co-working space is like a cool office building where they have like cool furniture and like, I don't know, coffees and fun stuff like that, where you can have a co-working membership, usually a few $100s a month, so that you either have a desk or you can just, you know, sit at like a table and like come in when you want and work. And that's really helpful if you're like on a deadline or like you need to get work done. Some people do is they'll do like 2 or 3 days a week in a co-working space and then 1 or 2 days at home. Another thing when it comes to working remotely, if you've never done it before, is that you have to be a lot more proactive in your communication with other people. So especially if you have like a mixed company where some people are in office and some people are remote, you're not able to like stop by Joe's desk or like chat with Sarah at the water cooler about whatever projects or whatever things you need from them. So you have to get a lot better at being present on like Slack or on email. A lot of remote workforces use Slack. It's like an internal messaging system to stay on top of things and to connect with people to make sure that stuff is getting done. Studies also show when it comes to being a remote worker that you actually get more done at home than you would in office because you're spending a lot less time like chit-chatting and all that fun stuff. You do have to figure out a way to pace yourself in terms of your day, wherein, you know, you're taking breaks and you're getting up and you're walking around and things like that, so it's built into your days. You're taking a lunch. Otherwise, remote workers are so worried that it'll come across that they're like not present enough, that they're actually more present than they would be even if they were in an office. So it is a balance between those two things. As if you're really interested in a remote job, and I'm going to share resources of where to find a remote job, what you can actually do in the meantime is pitch flex time or remote working days at your current company, where, you know, you say like, Wednesdays and Fridays, everybody works remotely. Generally, they don't want Fridays because then people view it as a 3-day weekend. So you can be like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I work remotely. Or even starting with 1 day or even a half day at home. And this can be a really smart thing to negotiate if you're like not getting the pay increase that you want or you're not getting the title that you want. You can negotiate being able to like work from home and work remotely. Another thing that can happen with people that work remotely or are traveling and just like clock in or, you know, sign on to their job in like a cafe in Italy or the Netherlands or whatever, is that because you're not getting FaceTime with people, people can forget what an asset or value you are to the team. So make sure that you're having like face-to-face, whether it's like Google Hangout, Zoom conferencing or whatever, where people are physically seeing your face, to remember that the value that you're adding to the team. It's very easy for like remote people to just kind of like fade into the background and like scurry around and do a lot of work, but not have their manager know what they're up to. So it's important to schedule at least twice a year performance reviews for your work so that you can check in and like make it clear that you are providing value to the organization. So a lot of people who showed up in my Instagram DMs asking about remote work mentioned having mental health issues as that being the reason why they wanted to have like a remote job. So I think that a remote position can be a really beneficial thing for people with mental health stuff going on, because one, you don't have to like get up and like get ready for work and commute to work. So you can save your spoons for like actually doing the work that you get paid to do. Another thing is that it's a little bit more flexible. So if you know that like you just have bad brain time in the morning, you can get through the morning and then maybe like clock in the afternoon and work into the night. That said, there are cons of having a remote position if you do have like mental health stuff going on. One of those things is that if you're one of those people that like you avoid, like you find it hard to start things when you're depressed or anxious or whatever's going on, it can be hard to not have like the social pressure of an office to incentivize you to like get moving on a project. It can also be hard to, how do I say this? Like for me in the past, one of the things that I've struggled with is if an email comes in and I don't answer it within 24 hours, I start to get anxious, and then it can be really tempting, and I've done this in the past. I've gotten through this, shout out to therapy, but it can be really tempting to just like not answer the email or like not be proactive and not respond to people and then feel more and more anxious and then just keep putting it off. And that kind of thing just like can't help happen. And in a professional setting, it'll really hurt you. So it's important to know yourself and create systems for which your mental health is being taken care of so that you can have a remote position. But I have definitely had bad brain days where I literally like, you know, like ordered something on Grubhub, sat in my bed and like did all of my work and was just like sad girl TM. And you can't do that if you have a 9-to-5, right? You just like, you know, can't cry while you're like replying to emails. Now I don't live in this life anymore, but that is something that I've been able to do and just kind of be a wreck while I get work done. And that's really shitty and like late capitalist. I wish that that wasn't the case, but you know, girls gotta eat, girls gotta pay her rent. So TLDR, if you do want a remote position for mental health purposes, you need to be sure that you're setting up systems around yourself and support systems so that you can actually get your work done. Okay, so when it comes to where the heck do you even apply to find a remote job, there are endless search engines and websites dedicated to this, and a lot of them cross-post to the same positions. So I'm gonna link this article in the description, but it's from Skill Crush. So there's flexjobs.com. There's We Work Remotely. Remote.co is one of my favorites. Remotive, Skip the Drive, Virtual Vocations. I also really like Jobspresso.co. There's a lot of like tech companies in there. And then when you go on to like just like a regular job search engine like Indeed or Glassdoor or LinkedIn, those all have little buttons that you can toggle to say that you want to work remotely. So you're just going to put like, let's say I'm looking for a position as like an account manager. You'd put a remote account manager into the search bar. What's also cool about working remotely is that a lot of customer service jobs let you work remotely. So if you're a college student, I worked remotely through college. If you're a college student and you want to find like those like $17 to $20 an hour flexible part-time jobs, you can find customer service jobs that are remote where you just like sign in and work remotely. AngelList is also a really good place to find remote positions within startups. So startups are like trying to be good with their money and like make shit happen with the investment they've been given. And a lot of them will cut costs by like just not having an office space, and they'll either like meet in a co-working space or at Starbucks or whatever. Another good place to find a remote role if you're looking for something that's more in like social good or nonprofit area is a website that's called Idealist. Now Idealist is just for nonprofit social good jobs in general, but they do also have a button that you can push to find remote positions. Another great place to find remote positions is honestly through Facebook groups. LinkedIn tried to have groups for this purpose and then just didn't work out, became self-promoting and weird. But there are different Facebook groups that you can join depending on the type of job that you're looking for to find those resources. So if you're a woman or if you're a queer person or what have you, there are specific groups out there that are dedicated to networking and providing resources for those people. So what you're going to want to do is literally just go to like your Facebook search bar and just search your city and then just put like women and see what Facebook groups come up. You know, Inspired Women in Los Angeles is a good one that I see that people post remote jobs in. Dreamers Doers podcast has a really good Facebook group. And then as you're in those Facebook groups, you can like ask for recommendations for other Facebook groups and then just like slowly grow from there. Let's talk about the edits that you need to make to your resume to land a remote job. So one of the things that you need to make sure that's on your resume is the term self-starter, that you will reach out and be proactive and that you're not just waiting and sitting around for somebody to tell you what to do. If you are not a self-starter, a remote position probably isn't a good idea for you at this time. Talking about managing your time, project management, being proactive, any sort of like remote work or volunteer experience that you've had should definitely be on your resume. And you should really be conveying the idea that like you will reach out, you will be the one that's proactive. You're not waiting around for other people to like give you instruction. So this video got a little long, but like c'est la vie. So be sure to subscribe below to The Huntswoman. And then if you have any other questions or if you think I should like film a follow-up video on something specific that I've talked about in here, like put it in the comments and I'll probably make it happen. Thanks for joining me, guys. Have a good night.